Welcome to another episode of the Let's Think About It podcast. I'm your host, Coach Mo, and I'm here with another amazing guest, my man, my brother, AD. What's good, man?
What's going on, man? I'm living life. I'm excited. I'm young. I'm sexy. I'm hydrated. I'm having a good time, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate you having me.
absolutely, absolutely. But tell me this, man, where you checking in from?
Dallas, the DFW area.
Dallas. That means you're a Cowboys fan too?
No, I actually, bro, I'm winning in my life so much. I'm not watching any sport. I'll watch the Super Bowl, and I actually like to make fun of Cowboys fans. Like, it's so funny they get so
Ah.
pissed. I couldn't tell you who's playing for them other than the quarterback.
Got you, got you, got you. So tell my audience who you are, what you do.
Yeah, for sure. I go by a couple of different names. One, you can find me on Instagram at AD, the RPA guy. So one thing I do is I help men get into tech, make six figures, work from home, work remotely, work from wherever the hell they want to work in less than 6 months. So that's one thing that I do. And then outside of that, I also do men's like lifestyle and relationship coaching. I have a podcast called King's Corner. But I really talk about and I harp on self-love, self-respect, self-acceptance, and gratitude for men. I really do believe those are the four pillars of living a great, outstanding life. And I'm pro masculinity, I'm pro man, and I just enjoy what I do.
Let's start with that then. Let's start with that.
Hmm.
Living this great, outstanding life. And
Yeah,
the one buzzword in your four pillars that I want to explore first is gratitude,
yeah,
because that's a crucial foundation in all that we do. You know what I mean?
yes,
Whatever
yes,
path you go down, gratitude should be present. So
yes.
tell me a little bit more about how you're incorporating gratitude into your pillars and how you're
Yeah,
working.
yeah.
And
You can't get more of anything until you're grateful for what you currently do have. Even if you feel like what you have is not a lot, you still need gratitude, right? And the human condition is such that we don't feel happy unless we're growing and progressing towards something, right? And the challenge with that is that and overachievers typically focus on what they don't have, right? Because I'm focused on what I want, and if I want it, it means I don't have it. But we
right.
can get stuck in that thinking and forget to be grateful for that which we do have, because we have so many things today that we thought that we would or that we wanted in the past that we didn't have. So we are exactly where we wanted to be at some point, even though we're not where we want to be right now.
Okay.
And it's just you can't, and I love the fact that you can't feel grateful and fearful at the same time. You
You
can't
can.
feel
You
grateful
can.
and hateful at the same time. And so
One influences the other.
yes, and so for that reason alone, like gratitude is necessary. It is what I wake up and I do. The first thing I do every morning is my breathing exercises. The very next thing I do is move to my gratitude journal. Right, it is the pillar of what it is that I do, and you're not capable. I don't think it's possible to live your best version of yourself or live your best life without gratitude. I don't think it's possible.
Okay. So take us through the journey in how you self-discovered that for yourself. Be-
Oh man. So last year, 2024, I spent over $100,000 on mentorship, right? And it was one of the best years of my life. I made more money than I've ever made. I started my business. I didn't start my business. I got serious about my business at that point. And I was in a point where I'm married. I had like a girlfriend at the same time, and she had left, and I was really sad about that. And I had got a mentor, and one of the things he kept telling me, I paid this guy 300 bucks a month, great guy. And he would just tell me like, bro, do what you want to do. Do what you want to do because you want to do it, not because society expects it of you, not because your wife expects it of you or whatever. And one of the other things he would always talk about is gratitude, right? Like he had
Mhm.
this whole, and he's a big macho, like masculine guy, like the kind of guy you look at and would be afraid of just because his size and how boisterous he is. And to hear him talk about gratitude all the damn time, I was like, okay, this must be very important, right?
Right.
And he, unlike me, he was not very judgmental of people. So he was just very focused on gratitude, masculinity, and all these other concepts that I had never really had another man break down to me, and very influential to me. And over the course of 4 or 5 months of coaching, this is just what we talked about, right? And he talked about like how I would itemize gratitude, like I said I get in the car and then I turn the AC on, and it was weird. It was like, okay, I'm grateful for the air that is blowing. And he, one of the things he told me, he was like, man, What you need to realize is every moment in your life, you have exactly what it is that you need. Every
Yep.
moment you have what you may not have what you want, but
Yep.
every moment you have what you need. And that was just something that stuck with me.
Whoever that mentor is, he's dropping powerful wisdom and nuggets
Yep.
because that's exactly what I live by. You can't, one thing that I share with my clients is, right, all there is right now, this moment. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Tomorrow isn't here yet. Yesterday has already happened. The only thing that you can possibly do right now is act right now and
Yep.
think right now. That's
Yep.
all you have control over. And
Yep.
what you think and do and be gracious for influences your tomorrow.
Yes.
And
Yep.
that's so powerful because when you look at the society that we're in, the administration change and all the different regulations and things that's coming out is generating a lot of fear. I can't, what am I going to do? Blah, 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 right? All you can do right now is think and plan right now. And
Yep.
that's what you have control over is
That's the,
your
that's the only
own,
thing you have control
you
over.
know what I mean? And so what was it that helped influenced you to work with men and move into this coaching space? What was that for you?
That's a good question, man. Let me start with this. I love women. I love femininity. I like to be around happy women. It is a full-time job to keep my energy high. I don't want to spend any time with anyone who's I got to pull them up because that means they're pulling me down, right? And I had that same mentor, that same coach. His name is Miles Cunningham. You can find him on Instagram at Miles in the Game. And I was telling him what my goal was. And at the time, it was to have 3 wives and we all have our own places and all this other stuff. And he was like, hey, bro, like, I hear what you want, but I think you might be a little too focused on women. I think you might be making them too important to you.
Mm,
And I also listen to a lot of Tony Robbins. And one of the things that I'm certain of, we all have, tell me if you've heard this before, we all have 6 human needs, right? Certainty is the first one, right? We need to be certain that we can be safe, certain that we can get comfort. If me and you are sitting in the same room and we don't know if the roof is going to cave in or not, it doesn't matter what I'm communicating to you. You're not going to feel safe enough to even listen, right? The
mm,
second one that we need is uncertainty. Like we need variety. If you knew everything that was going to happen in every moment of every day, it'd be cool at first, but then you get bored. So we need variety, right? The third thing is love or connection, right? Because we're communal by nature, right? I'm missing one. Certainty, uncertainty, love, connection. Significance is the fourth one. To feel that I am unique, to feel that I am special, to feel that I make a difference. That's our ego. Okay. And then, so those are the first 4 needs that everybody finds a way to meet somehow, some way. Then we have the last 2 needs that are spiritual. You might meet these two, you might not. Okay. The fifth one is growth, to become better, to grow, to expand, to develop. And then the fourth one is to contribute, to give to something bigger than you. And so which of those 6 that you, again, all we all have all 6. What makes the biggest difference in your life is which one you prioritize. And I knew that in order to become the best version of myself, I would have to prioritize growth or contribution. I
okay.
decided to prioritize growth. So that's why I'm always about self love, self respect, self acceptance. That's growth. But
Right.
contribution, I'm thinking, like, okay, who needs this? Who needs to hear this message? Men are struggling. And one thing that I used to say often is, I'm not average. My friends are not average. I don't know what the average man does. I don't know what kind of car he drives. I don't know what he thinks about. I don't hang around average people. And then I started to realize, but the average man needs my help. The average man does not like himself. He does not love himself. He does not respect himself. And if he doesn't like himself, his woman cannot like him. If he does not respect himself, his woman cannot respect him. If he does not accept himself, his woman cannot accept him. And so I went from this abstract idea of the average man, me not.
So what's the basis of this average man though? What does that look like? Because I think
So,
everyone
mhm,
everyone has their own perception of just because I'm not making X amount of dollars, but I'm totally fulfilled in my marriage and the work that I do, and it may
yeah.
not be a million
So
there.
when I
So
say
what
average,
is,
I'm going off of statistics. So do you think that the average man is fulfilled in his marriage? Average marriage.
I don't know, but in my
Average.
opinion,
The ones that you see when
uh,
you walk down the street or you watch TV or whatever, average, not great marriages. You're talking about, man, in great marriage, if I'm totally fulfilled. I think, let me put it this way. I believe that the average person is average at most things they do. So the average man's income is like 35,000 a year. That's average. I'm going based on
Right.
numbers and statistics. I'm not going off of my opinion.
All
The
right.
average marriage ends in divorce.
Right.
And on average, women leave more often. They leave 80% of the time, right? The average American is overweight. So I'm just going off of literally the law of large numbers and averages. And if you were to just pick a man, you said, okay, this is an average height man, 5'9", average income, 35,000, average body weight, he's overweight, average marriage, he's miserable. If you just to me, that is an average life. And also, I think average is bad. I think that is a bad, pitiful life. I wouldn't want to live that life. I wouldn't like me. This is not me judging
Right.
them. I just know that it wouldn't be okay for me. And that's what I get, where I get average from. And that man, I think, needs help. And I think that we live in a time where masculinity is shunned, right? And so it's expected that you act feminine and you think femininely. And if you don't, then you're toxic and your masculinity is toxic. And I just think it's a bunch of bullshit, man. That's
So how
what
do you help them then? How do you, so you found this average person who
Mhm.
needs your help. What is that help? What do you do?
Yeah, I don't believe in imposing myself on others because I don't think you can force feed anybody. I think it just makes them resent you. I don't look at average men and say, "Oh, you need help." I just lead by example. This is
No, I
what
say when
okay.
someone reaches out to you and they say
Okay.
like, I need some help, AD, what is that process and how you help
Got it.
elevate
Got it.
them?
I really, so it goes back to the four pillars. I really and truly do believe. So my goal for them is always to live an outstanding life. What is outstanding? When I say outstanding, I mean you see somebody doing something and you say, holy shit, I had no idea that was possible. I didn't
Right.
even know that was a thing. I'm inspired to do that too. So that's my goal for them. That's also my goal for myself. How do we go about getting there? We need a couple of things. One, we need clarity. What kind of man do you want to be? Who do you want to be? What do you want to drive? Where do you want to live? How do you want to show up in the world? So we need clarity, obviously. We need gratitude as well. And then I think we need those other three pillars: self love, self respect, self acceptance, right? I'll give you an example. I have a friend, and again, I don't have any average friends, right? Um, Great guy. He works in car sales, makes six figures. He's got a lady. They've got kids, and they live a good life. And great guy, like stand up guy, very honorable. I've known him since high school. One of my longest standing friends, right? Um, and he was telling me how sometimes he and his lady like have a falling out. This was years ago. I don't think this is happening anymore. And he said whenever they would fall out, I guess she'd move out, he'd move out or whatever. Or maybe they wouldn't move out, but he would end up cheating on her and having another girl or whatever. And in order to stop himself from doing this, he would play this really sad music. This song from the 80s where this guy's singing about how bad he feels when he cheats on his woman in order to keep him from cheating. And then he still cheats. So I'm like, bro, it's in your nature. You are polygynous by nature. That is just who you are. You wouldn't buy a dog or adopt a dog and then be upset that the dog barks. Or a dog wouldn't be upset that it barks. That is in its nature. You do not accept your nature. Therefore, you don't feel good about yourself. You can't, I just don't believe that you become the best version of yourself fighting your nature. You must find a way to point your nature and use it in a way that serves you, but it doesn't make sense to feel shame about something that's built into you that you have no control over. Right. So I really think those three pillars or those four pillars: self love, self respect, self acceptance, and gratitude. Maybe I'll add something to it later, but I really do think that if men had those four things, right, and they really developed their masculinity, and masculinity is basically
But
you go ahead.
how do you help them develop that though? Like they're coming to you and
Okay.
then
So you're
you
asking about the how
the
specifically. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So first, we got to start with awareness, right? I have to get you to see and understand that, or let me start over. I really do believe everything comes back to self. Everything.
Hmm.
Everything. If a man is not where he wants to be, I have an example. I had a guy who wanted to work with me to get into tech, right? This guy had $60,000 saved. He was making $70,000 as an engineer, and this his job was walking all over him. They were making this guy work 10-hour days, work Saturdays and Sundays, and I'm like, hey, bro, what do you want? He's, man, I want to get into another career where I can make six figures and I can work from home and work 20 hours of work a week or less. And I'm like, okay, tell me about your current situation. He told me all the numbers. And then I said, hey, bro, why don't you tell them no, I'm not working on weekends? Why don't you tell them no, I'm logging off? And what we found out was that he didn't feel comfortable standing up for himself, right?
Right.
He had a people pleasing nature. And again, we start with self awareness, and it's hard to like yourself when you don't have boundaries. So, brother, you don't like yourself. Can I get you to agree that you don't like yourself? We have to start there. You have to be able to look at yourself and say, I don't like how I am showing up. I don't like me. I don't like the fact that I don't have boundaries. So I get them to understand that they either lack, they don't like themselves. Oh, I'm sorry, they don't love themselves, they don't respect themselves, or they don't accept them. It's always one of those three. It is always one of those three. So now we identify which one it is. And then from there, we just reverse engineer, right? So self love is self investment, right? So this is I'm reading books, I'm drinking water, I'm going to the gym, I'm doing things in the now, as you said, to make
Mhm.
the future me better. Okay, are you drinking water? Are you reading books? Are you associating with people who make you feel good and who pour into you, who reinforce the positive qualities in you? Or are you hanging out with people who you don't like, who don't make you feel well, who hold you to a low standard, right? That's all self-love. From there, we look at self-respect. Self-respect or respect is just admiration, right? Treating yourself how you would treat someone who you admire. So what does your self-talk sound like? Most men's self-talk sucks. Okay. They say things like, I'm stupid, I'm an idiot, I can't do it. Just all that coming out of my mouth just now. That just sounded weird. It felt right? They speak to themselves in such a way that, like, if someone else were to speak to them, they wouldn't speak to that person for very long. But I think we're just so hard on ourselves, right? And then the third part is self acceptance. So that's just what is it about you or your nature that you have no control over, but you're still judging yourself and you're feeling shameful of it, right? I don't think shame is good. I don't think the best version of me has shame. And it's just getting yourself to accept, mostly, especially in the West, that you are a man and that your nature is just different. You're not bad. You're not worse. You're not evil. You're not broken. You're not wrong. It's just different. If I was raised by gorillas or baboons or whatever, or any other animal, and they're like, hey, bro, why are you standing upright? That's weird. There's something wrong. I would grow to think there's something wrong with me. If you are in a society where it's feminine, or a lot of guys like, I have a guy who works with me, and he's like me. He's a young guy he's never had a problem with women, but he's also been raised by all women, and so
Mhm.
he gets in a position where it's like he's not lying all the time, but he's sugarcoating shit all the time, and he has a very hard time having direct conversations. And I'm like, bro, it's because of your environment. You're not used to speaking in a masculine manner because you're not speaking to men. You're speaking with women. Like I met another guy who he grew up raised by women, and like I don't think his father I think his father died when he was a young age, and he was like, I grew up learning that lying was okay because it's how you stay safe, right? Because
Mhm.
if I didn't, they would all jump down my throat, they'd all gang up on me. And so he grows up as an adult who he's like, I'm cheating on all these women and I just can't be honest. And I learned that lying is okay. And I'm like, but lying is a side of cowardice, right? Do you really believe that the best version of you is a coward? No. Okay, then. So you're not being the best version of yourself. You're living out of fear and cowardice instead, you're demonstrating fear and cowardice instead of courage, right? So it's just
Right.
taking stock and having an honest conversation with yourself about, do I treat myself like someone who I admire? Am I investing in myself? Do I totally accept myself? If it's something that you don't like about yourself that you can change, then change it. And if you can't change it, then accept it. But judging yourself, there's no benefit in it.
Just listening to you, it sounds like what everybody across the world deal with is the inner critic. And that inner critic is that inner voice that's negative. And then you
Mm-hmm.
add in limiting beliefs, assumptions based on prior experiences that were bad experiences, and you're
Mm-hmm.
projecting that it's going to happen in the future. So it makes you hesitant and afraid to try. And then
Yep.
you got the narrative that you tell yourself, which is the story that you're really not good enough, you're not this, you're not that, right? And then you add a voice to that, right? That voice sounds like you in your head telling you, don't do this, don't try this, you're fat, you're this, and you're that.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the day, you listen to that shit
Mm-hmm.
and it prevents you from taking steps forward. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I hear the type
Yep.
of men that you deal with and you work with, right? But then the opportunity is always like, how do you help them create that self-awareness so that they know that they're getting in their own way? Because when you talk about men being raised by all women and then they show up in society and are not as masculine or they're not as direct or things like that, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
part of their being
Mm-hmm.
because you adapt to your environment. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, you hang out
Mm-hmm.
with certain people and you become that
Mm-hmm.
environment. And so when these average men, sometimes they don't even know what they don't know. So they
Mm-hmm.
just on autopilot
Mm-hmm.
day in and day out until
Mm-hmm.
awareness is created. And
Yep.
so even the inner critic, the negative self-talk that they have in their minds, that can be positive to them.
Mm-hmm.
That can be positive
Mm-hmm.
to them. And
Yep.
that's exactly why they're still in the cycle that they're in. Because
Yep.
they don't even know, because it's a blind spot. It's a
Yes.
blind spot.
Yes.
And so
Totally.
and so they think that, just like you also said, giving them the opportunity to see what those possibilities are, right? When you're in autopilot in your own headspace, talking negative, creating this negative version of yourself, you think that's cool because guess what else? You're in an environment of other people who are like that too.
Yep.
And that's a, a group think
Mm-hmm.
of everybody who's not going anywhere,
Yep.
right? And it takes true consciousness and awareness to break free of that shit,
That's true.
whatever that
And
looks like.
I would even say that there are men who are not average. These are men who are succeeding, who still talk to themselves poorly,
Yeah,
who still beat
absolutely.
themselves up. So yeah, I
Absolutely. It's
completely
across the
agree with what you're
board.
saying.
It's
Yep.
across the board. It's
Yep.
across the board. Just you're just zooming in on a thick demographic of
Mm-hmm.
men that you're trying to bring the light to. And for
Mm-hmm.
that, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And
Thank
that's
you.
just real talk.
Yeah.
But why tech? You also mentioned you try to help guys get into
Yeah.
tech. Why
Yeah.
tech?
So one tech is what I did. I got a degree in computer science from the University of North Texas. So I've been in tech this entire time, right? Since 2020.
Okay.
So it's just what I know, right? My dad told me, hey, go to school, do something with math, you'll be okay. That's what I did. I've largely turned out to be, I'm more than okay. That being said, I've been in tech this whole time. So I don't know how anyone else lives. I don't know what jobs are like outside of the market because I've always been in tech, right?
Okay.
But what I have learned is that people, like I've probably done over 300, 400 calls with men at this point, right? And what I'm hearing them say that they want is financial freedom, right? They want to be able to buy things, pay for things, have experiences without thinking first, can I afford this? Right? Two, they want to travel, right? Or more specifically, they want to work, but they want to be able to work remotely from wherever it is that they desire to be. Three, they want time freedom, right? They don't want to feel as though like I'm working and grinding away 50, 60, 70 hours a week here. And now I don't have time for my wife. I don't have time for my kids. I don't have time for sports. I don't have time for self. Right. Those are the three
Right.
things that I'm hearing people say. And it just so happens that I'm in an industry that allows them to have that. I've primarily almost always had that. But I don't know what other people don't have until I start talking to them. So it also helps me remind myself like to be grateful that I'm able to make $150,000 working less than 20 hours a week. Everybody can't do that in their current career, right?
Right.
It reminds me to be grateful that I could, I don't travel a whole lot, but I could be like, I'm going to be in LA next week, right? And I can just take my laptop with me, do business from LA while still working, right?
Mhm.
It reminds me to be grateful that I'm home pretty much every day. I get to be here when my kids get here. I get to take my children to school. I get to spend that time with them and interact with them. Everybody doesn't get that, right? And so just being in this profession helps me remain grateful for those things.
Okay. So what's next for you? What's your objectives for
Yeah, that's
yourself
that's
and what
that's a
you
good one, man. The podcast King's Corner. So I have the podcast called King's Corner, and then I also have my organization's men. It's called King's Corner. We have an online community, and I want to get the membership to a million men, million people. I really believe that Brad, men build this world, right? If we disappear, everything else disappears eventually, right? We build the infrastructure, but we are important. How we feel, what we think, what we do, all of that is important. And up until like I was age 29, 30, I didn't believe my feelings were important. I didn't believe what I thought was, I thought my job was just to show up and provide and shut up. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
said it that way back then, but that's how I felt inside. And so I want to truly inspire men to live an outstanding life. I want people to see me the way they might see like a Jay-Z, or the way they might see an Andrew Tate, or the way they might see whoever they idolize and say, wow, that's incredible. And I don't want them to stop it. That's incredible. I want them to say, if he can do it, I can do it. Because I'm not that much different. I've just read a few more books. I've made a few more mistakes, right? There's nothing so special about me that what I've done can't be duplicated, because I've just hired mentors and I'm just taking bits and pieces of the wisdom that I've gotten from them that I like, that makes sense for me, and following their footsteps. So I want to inspire men to really and truly live the lives that they desire to live. That same mentor who I spoke about earlier was saying that only men have an identity, women don't, right? And what I think he means by that is, when a so let me I got to do some relationship logic. So in every relationship there's a power dynamic, right? And in every romantic relationship there's always someone who likes someone slightly more and someone who likes the other person slightly less, right? It's never equal, right? Someone The person willing to leave the relationship and end the relationship first likes the other person less. And so
Mhm.
you always have the pursuer and then you have the pursued. Okay. The pursuer gets to be with, and this is, I'm using pursue, or let's change it because they're in a, at this point, let's say they're in a committed relationship. So there's the adored and the adorer. Okay. And so
Okay.
the adored gets to be with the one who loves them. The adorer gets to be with the one who they love. No position is better than the other. They both need the other position to exist. And so going back to that, he was saying men have an identity, women don't. A woman typically will become whoever she needs to be in order to keep the attention of the man who she desires. Right. So if I
Mhm.
say I don't like women who are loud and boisterous and mean, and this woman really wants me to like her, she's not going to be loud, boisterous for me. So she changes who she is so that she can fit in my life. That changing who she is what I think he means by saying she doesn't have an identity. I am who I am, and I'm going to be me, be masculine, move how I want to move, and not try to move in any kind of way that gets people to think a certain thing about me. I just am who I am. He said your job as a man is to cultivate yourself and then show up to the world and present yourself to them. Right now,
Mhm.
I've seen the relationships go the other way around, where the man likes the woman more, and so he's molding himself to who he needs to be in order to keep her. However, this doesn't work because this makes the woman feel unsafe. She starts to believe, wait, if I can control you, then you can't keep me safe. Because if someone tries to attack us, like if you're so easily controlled by me, he can control you, she can control you. And so that it just doesn't work that way. The relationships that I know that really last long term and the ones that I would actually want to emulate, it's the man is the adored, the woman is the adorer. Right. And so I say all that to say I want to show men how to become the best versions of themselves so they can start having effortless relationships with the women that they want. Right. And you do that
Mhm.
by like saying, forget the one that you want and figure out who wants you, because it's just easier that way. If
Right.
she's chasing you, then she can't leave. You don't have to worry about what she's doing or where she's going and things like that. And as a man who has been cheated on several times, I understand how we get there. So that's one part of it. I want to show men what it looks like to live an outstanding life and have effortless relationships where she believes that you are the best that she can possibly do. And for that reason, she's not going to rock the boat. She's not going to be argumentative. She's not going to be crass. She's not going to be disrespectful, because she believes that this is the best I can do. Any other man would be a downgrade. And I tell women like straight up, just like that, if you don't think I'm the best you can do, you should just leave me alone, because it's not going to work anyway. And then on the other side of that, this is a more recent goal. Everybody knows Hugh Hefner, right? My goal is I'm building an organization called the Good Girl Gang. And this is a group of women who want to be led. They don't want to consider themselves equal to men. They want to be told what to do. They want to turn their brain off. They don't want to make decisions all day. They just want a man who they love, trust, respect, who they believe has their best interest at heart, and they want to be led. And the relationship coaching is actually a whole lot easier for women. Like I could show any woman how to get just about any man that she wants, assuming she can get in the same room with him. Because men are simple. Men are so simple. It is ridiculous. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm starting that up too. I'm really excited about that. I believe that I need a woman in order to become the best version of myself. Like the best version of me knows how to lead and interact with men, women, children, straight people, gay people, tall people, short people. I need these people in order to become the best version of myself. Otherwise, I can never interact with them and I can't learn how to interact with them. And
Right.
likewise, I think that women need men in order to become the best version of themselves. I think that they need to learn how to follow. I think that they need someone to confide in. I think that you being in your professional life, I'm assuming that you can tell what a woman, you can spot a woman from talking to her who did not have a safe relationship with her father growing up. You can
Mm-hmm.
see it on them as adults. And so that to me is like proof that like they need us. And so if they need us, then let's show up and be the best versions of ourselves. Not necessarily for them. We're doing it for us. They just so happen to get the best version of us as a byproduct.
Yeah. They need, we, society needs the best version of good men, regardless,
Yeah.
across all races and things like that. And then we also need just better communication because I think, not that I'm a relationship expert, but I've been married for 16 years. And
That's
the
not the
thing,
average marriage, bro. So that's what I'm saying. You could teach the average married guy something. Yeah.
and I think where things had like really synced us up is the communication piece of it. And I hear you, women want to be led and things like that. Guys should be take charge, be the leader, things like that. All important, all true. But I also feel that I know and I'm gonna speak for myself. I need a strong woman, and that's what I was attracted to. And not that what I mean by strong, I don't mean like she's gonna be the dominator in the
Mm-hmm.
group, in the relationship, and things like that. But I need a woman who's strong in a sense of goal centric, wanna
Mm-hmm.
because I have high aspirations for myself and where I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to take the family. And
Mm-hmm.
although you're going to be my right hand, my partner in crime, all of that, right? I want you to have that same confidence in yourself as you do in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally don't want a timid
Yeah.
woman that just consistently is a yes woman. I don't need a
Mm-hmm.
yes woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want a woman that's going to help elevate me and
Mm-hmm.
not be afraid to tell me what I need to hear when I need to
Mm-hmm.
hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Who's not afraid to just call me out on some stuff because I think that makes me better as a man. It
I'm
makes me
hearing you say you
thrive
want a
as
woman who's honest with you about
honest.
everything, even your
Absolutely.
shortcomings. For sure. For sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's what's made my relationship
Mm-hmm.
so powerful, like a power couple.
Yeah.
And we've been able to achieve goals and dreams and things like that. So I think that's most important. But when most people, like, and I'm going to go back to what we were talking about, they're just in autopilot. And whether it's just chasing ass and not even really worrying about the ramifications of the long-term possibilities with a person, they just want this and when they want it. And so that's where people start to cheat and doing things in that
Mm-hmm.
nature because they want what they want when they want it
Yeah.
and not looking at the bigger picture and how the benefits of a woman, a job, whatever can really
Yeah.
have a positive impact on you because
Yeah.
it goes back to what we were saying. It's that inner critic. It's that
Yeah.
judgment, like you need this, or even when you do have a good woman, right?
Question.
The inner critic shows up and it's telling you that she's thinking this and this of you, which is not even true, and you believe it,
Yeah.
and you go out and do some stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And then you
I got a
realize,
question.
damn, I was wrong.
I got a question for you because I heard you use a few buzzwords. What is
A good woman is loyalty, trust, mindfulness, openness. A good woman for Mo.
okay? So that's what I was going to
For
get at.
Mo.
So when we say good woman, it's very subjective because what you would consider a good woman, I may not, or there may be some overlap, but it's not going to be exactly the same.
I'm saying a good
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
woman for Mo,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
For
Which is
sure.
my wife,
For sure.
because it's those qualities. And I remember, man, because I was in the single game for a long time. And then
Mm-hmm.
when I decided to settle, I was very strategic in what I wanted in my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what my wife is, right? All of those characteristics.
Yes.
And I think it's also important, if you don't have that sweetheart early on, someone that you really desire, it's okay to be strategic about what you want in a woman and
Mm-hmm.
go after it. And because at the end of the day, I view marriage as a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And I need my wife to be that partner that's going to help elevate me. And that's important
Mm-hmm.
to me.
Question. I got a question, or not even a question. I want to say my argument is this: there is no such thing as a good woman. There is no such thing. There can't be, right? Or there is no one definition of a good woman because what's
There's
good for
no
you is
there's
good
no
for me.
one good definition,
Yes,
because I define what's good
yes,
for
yes.
Mo.
And
And if
in
she
order,
meets that label, then
yes,
she's a good woman to me.
yes. And in order for a woman to be good for me, I have to teach her how to treat me, right? So it is incumbent upon me to teach whatever. But here's the thing: she also has to like me enough to want to change herself for me. Does that make sense? If she is doing it begrudgingly, then that's not gonna work. That's not gonna last long term.
That's part of the partnership, though. That comes with the whole communication piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because marriage is a learning process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when we first got married, it's totally different than where we are today.
Mm-hmm.
Because you go through these bumps and these hiccups and things like that. And through that's the learning process. I'm learning from her and she's learning from me. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna slow this down really quick because I want my listeners to know how can they find you, and final thoughts that you have to share.
Yeah, for sure. So they can find me in a couple places. On Instagram, you can find me at that's THERPA. That's R as in Robert, P as in Paul, A as in Ashley, Guy on Instagram, the RPA guy. They can also find me on YouTube at King's Corner Podcast TV. Those are the two easiest places to go about reaching me. And final thoughts, man, is it's all about self. It's all about self. I tell people that like I come across people, especially being an influencer online, which I never meant to
Hmm.
be here. It's just where I am today. I have all kind of people who say things and it's clear that they don't like me, but it's you can't not like me. You don't know me. So what you're
Right,
really saying is you don't like how you feel when you see me. That's an
right.
internal problem. And that just lets me it reinforces the idea that everything comes back to self. So the best version of yourself is what's best for everybody else. It's truly what I believe. And I believe that the world would be a better place if we all found ways to just love ourselves more. Like love your wife, love your kids, love everybody. But bro, love you. Respect you, accept you, and it makes it easier to love, respect, and accept everybody else.
And incorporate gratitude, because
And
that's what we
gratitude.
started.
And gratitude.
That's what
Gotta
we
have that.
started this off with.
For sure.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you.